Hello and welcome to our next Studio Lab tutorial, which today we're going to look at using our wood turning lathe to make our first lathe project, which is our wooden pen project. We've converted our machine from the jigsaw. There's a tutorial we've done for you on how to convert from a jigsaw to the lathe, removing the jigsaw modules, attaching the lathe modules. So you might want to take a look at that for your setup before we begin. On the bench in front of me, I've got the equipment we're going to need for this, some samples of our pens here, some of the wooden blanks we use to turn the pen here, our packet, which is a complete pen kit, if you like. These are the extra peripherals, consumables, which you can order if you want to make more pens. From our toolbox, we've got 5 components. We've got our spanner, Allen key screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, wood turning tool, and our pen fixture. My extra kit, if you like, I've got my safety glasses, I've got my pencil and my piece of sandpaper. This here is the pen press we issue you if you're doing this at home, or use in our centre if you come to us. That's going to be used to assemble our pen once we're done. So the first thing is to install our pen holder, if you like, or our pen template. And this is going to be used to support the wooden blanks in the lathe as I'm turning and shaping the wood. To give you a rough idea of how much we need to insert into the machine, I'm going to ask you to make sure that this brass part on the end, this gold part here, is halfway along that screw thread. We've got a threaded part of this bar here. I want you to first of all make sure that that's not at the very end. It's not at the very limit to how much you can screw in. It's halfway. From our machine itself, we're going to first of all remove our revolving tailstock. This comes off. The pen fixture, or the jig if you like, then inserts into the machine at this end. We've opened this fixture here with our spanner so it's nice and loose. That's free to travel in and out. And when we put our revolving center back on, actually let's leave that off for a second. We can undo this nut, that brass one comes off, and 2 of the 3 little fixtures, the 3 little tubes come off. We need to leave one on there first of all. So it goes small tube, blank piece of wood, small tube, second blank of wood. If you push that too far, just pull it out again. Final small tube, gold locking nut. Gold locking nut goes on there. And remember I said to you to make sure that goes in half the distance of that little screw thread there. I can then push the rest of this up with my finger. It won't travel any further. And that allows me then to put the revolving tailstock on and locate into the end of the bar. So I know now how much of that fixture I needed to leave out if I follow those steps. So one more time. Small tube, blank wood. Small tube, blank wood. Small tube, gold fixing piece. Next step, we're going to tighten our revolving center here with our fixture on the end. That's nice and tight, that's not moving. And now I'm going to tighten the fixture by inserting my Allen key screwdriver into the shaft at the end. Make sure, please, that goes right down, not just a little bit down, all the way down. Take my spanner. I'm going to use my spanner against the turning action of my screwdriver. Make sure everything's pushed up nice and tight. And I'm going to use that as a lever to tighten that piece up. So it's a sort of this sort of action. At the end, final check. Now my gold screw fixture can be as tight as I can. I'm holding the chuck side of the machine and the gold screw fixture, making sure that's all nice and tight. My revolving center is tight. I'm almost ready to go. Our wood turning tool, this one here from your toolbox, it has a handle on one end and it has our cutting edge on the other. That's going to be resting on this part of the machine. This is our tool post. Now it's important from a safety point of view that you don't have too much of a gap between the tool post and your wood. That gap at the moment is way too big. So I'm going to show you how to reduce that gap now. Take your Phillips screwdriver, your crosshead screwdriver, it locates in the little fixture on the front. I can open that. It's now free to move. So I'm going to start working on the writing end of my pen. If I take one of these examples, and in my head I'm imagining that this is going to be the writing end of my pen, the right hand side of my pen from where I'm sitting, I'm going to start work on that piece. So that means that my tool post wants to be over on the right side piece of wood. You can start at the other end of your pen if you wish, in which case your tool post will be up this end. And you'll see me moving this along as we go through the turning of this pen. So I've got that in place. I've reduced that gap down as small as I can, but still allowing the wood to rotate. You don't want, let me just show you this, you don't want this to happen. The tool post is touching the wood. No, that needs to be back from the wood, just a few millimeters. Hold it in place while you tighten the tool post down. Now that's nice and firm. There are some fixtures along the front of the tool post that allow you to tighten it even more, but I like mine to be sort of, it will move if I force it, but it's not loose and it's not vibrating as I'm working, just in between. So I've got that in position. I've got my cutting tool in my hand ready to go. You do not use the cutting tool if it's not touching the tool post. That's a golden rule for you there. So I don't want to see anyone doing this, holding this up in the air. I don't want to see anyone certainly using it with one hand. It's two hands on the handle, so I place one hand over the other one like so, and the tip of the tool post, the tip of the cutting tool, sorry, I rest on the tool post. That must be in contact. And then it's a matter of feeding the cutting tool into the wood. Final check, I'm going to rotate the wood with my hand just to make sure it's not touching, there's no interference there. Everything's nice and secure. I've got my glasses on, you're going to wear your safety glasses. I've got my power all hooked up, ready to go. There's no reason why we shouldn't start cutting. So a quick on to check. Everything's running nice and freely. I've got no long hair in the way, no loose clothing, no hanging down, anything from me that's going to interfere with the machine. So we're good to go. So I'm going to concentrate on the right-hand side of my pen, which I'm going to call the writing end. Now, if you look at these, this is the little gold tip that we get in our kit. This is the writing tip. If I just remove one from my kit here, you will see the shape of it there. It's what we call a taper. It goes from a wide point down to a narrow point. Now, ergonomically speaking, in terms of design to fit in the human hand, the pen wants to be ergonomically in keeping with that shape. I've got one here that is the opposite to that. This person has left that nice and big. It's entirely your choice. I know people grip pens in different ways, so depending on if this is made for you or is made for gift for someone, let's start having to think about how ergonomic, in other words, comfortable, fit for design, this end is here. So for me, I'm going to try and replicate this one, where we can see we've got this lovely flowing taper that goes from the middle and continues all the way down to the writing tip. On the top end of my pen, I will show you how to do grooves and fixtures like this, but for now, I'm going to concentrate on getting this side of my pen down to a nice flowing taper. So here we go. So you can see I've started to cut away the wood. This process is called turning. We're going to end up with a turned pen. Some of you might fix your piece of wood on there and you might find you've got a little bit of a bounce in the wood. And when I say that, I mean that it might be rotating what we call off center. If you have got that little bounce going on, it's never a bad thing to start with what we call a true piece of wood first. I've got a slight irregularity going on here, and a couple of ways you can see this. I can see that I've cut away wood here, but I've missed here, so it's running slightly off center. Another way you can check this is to take your pencil as the wood is turning, and if you touch your pencil on the wood, that should be a continuous line. If that line isn't continuous, that means your wood is slightly off center. And I've proven that mine is off center here. I can see a pencil line and it stops and then it comes back again. So I'm going to rewind slightly. I'm going to make sure that my piece of wood, before I go any further, is what we call running true. It's not off center, it's running true. And I'll prove that by doing another pencil line. When I finish in a moment, I'm going to touch it on and you'll see that line is continuous. So let's get my piece of wood true first. So I'm conscious just by the amount of pressure I'm giving that I'm taking off the same amount of wood here as I would here. Now it would be very tempting for me to carry on and finish the rest of that off, but what you've noticed is I've run out of tool post. It'd be very easy for me to try and do that without any tool post to rest on here, but that is in fact dangerous. We never cut the wood without having the tool post to rest on. So what must I do? I must move it along slightly. So I've now got enough tool post for me to finish this last part. So I've got my piece of wood running true. I've taken the same amount of wood off along, just a few shavings. I'm not trying to achieve the shape yet. I'm just making sure that the wood is true. Let's prove that with our pencil line. And there it is. That pencil line is continuous all the way around now. So I've got rid of that slight bounce that was in the wood. Now I'm going to go back up to the writing end and I'm going to focus on getting my taper going down to my writing point. Okay, I've started to take away the wood now and I'm focusing on the shape I want it to be. Just before we go any further, you'll notice on the cutting tool on the tip here that we have a U-shape sort of cutout. You must be able to see that as you're working. I get people sometimes who use it sideways, some people even try and use it upside down or sideways here. All those previous three are wrong. There's only one way to hold this, and that's so you can see the groove cut out on top. Next thing is, as I'm going down through my wood, our three little spacer tubes, we've got one on the tip, one in the middle, one on the end. That's a rough guide to the diameter of that shaft that runs through the middle of our wood. If I hold that up here, we can see a hole right through the middle of there. So obviously we don't want to wear this away and get down to that tube because then the wood will break. And as a visual looking at this, I'm using the diameter of that spacer, that little tube at the end, as a rough guide. You can see on mine, I'm pretty much down to the same diameter as it now. So I don't want to go any further on that tip. I can focus on the rest of this. Don't go beyond the diameter of those three little tubes. on the middle there, I've just rounded off the back of this piece of wood, so we've not got this sharp edge here. I've rounded that into the middle spacer tube. And you've seen I was using two techniques. I was using one technique which was taking long sweeps of wood away, and another technique where I was doing this little centimetre first, then the next one, then the next one. It's entirely up to you. What you don't want to happen if you're trying to achieve this smoothness, you don't want to leave these ridges in between each mini section of wood turning that you do, because we're going to have to sand those out if we're aiming for this smooth, seamless taper. I'm happy with that now. I've pretty much achieved the shape I want on there. I'm just going to roll this slightly forward, and I'm going to take my sandpaper and get this piece nice and smooth. Now your sandpaper, from a safety point of view, you don't want to be doing this with a big sheet. It may be possible for that to get jammed in there and get wrapped up on the machine. So what we're going to do with our sandpaper, we're going to make it fairly small, about half the size of a credit card, like so, and I'm going to place it on, remembering that the machine is rotating towards me. So here we go with some sanding. So my piece of wood here for my writing part is nice and smooth. I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead now and focus on the other side of the pen. Now back to our pen kit. On the top end of the pen, two little fixtures that we get is our end cap and our pocket clip. This is an optional clip. You don't have to put it on, but it's the one that you can clip onto a shirt pocket or onto a piece of clothing, and it's held in place by our end cap. Just as we spoke about the taper then going down into the writing point, you might want to realize that this is flat. So most of our pens tend to end up with a flat area, which ergonomically is in keeping with the flatness of the end cap. So I'm going to bear that in mind as I proceed to shape this now, but I'm also going to show you how to achieve some of these ripples and grooves and shapes on there that you might want to do. Moving the tool post first. I'm going to start at the top end, the cap end, and see how we go. First of all, getting the wood running true. Is it true? Let's give it a test with our pencil. Yes, it is. We have a continuous line, so there's no bouncing taking place. Back up to the top. Let's start some shaping of the top end of my pen now. I've achieved a little scoop out there, and that scoop replicates the roundness of the tip of my cutting tool. So all I was doing was a kind of in, out to the width of the scoop out that I wanted to achieve. Let's have a look at doing a longer scoop out now. I'm going to do a sort of a big sort of curve in the remainder of the wood. So all the time I'm doing these cutouts, I'm focusing on the diameter of that tube and the diameter of that tube and even the one on the end. Remember, that is the rough diameter of the fixture that goes through the pieces. I don't want to go any further than that. I risk breaking through the wood. This piece is now ruined. I have to replace it with a new piece of wood. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm just going to do one sort of ripple, if you like, in the wood. So I'm happy with the shape. I've got a nice little taper going into the center here. I think my cutting and shaping is complete. I'm now going to start doing some sandpapering. Now where I've got cut out scoops, I can fold the sandpaper so I achieve this rounded shape on it there, which is going to fit very nicely into those rounded shapes I've achieved. Okay, I'm happy with that, nice and smooth. I have a shape that I wanted. I've got my writing end tapered how I wanted. We finished the shaping of our wooden pen. I'm going to show you now how to remove that pen from your machine and assemble it using our pen press. So our pen is made, our shaping is complete. It's been removed from the lathe, the reverse of how I showed you how to put it on there. And I have the pen laid out in front of me now, and I've got clear in my mind which is the writing end, which is the cap end. So first step on our pen press, this pen press, if you're using our home study kits, will be issued to you if you request one. If you're coming here to visit our center, we have several of these that are here for you to use. First one is I'm going to do the tip of the pen. Now you will see on these little spaces here that they've got various labels on there. So if I put them all up until I get to tip, that is the section I'm doing now. So I've got 3 up, 3 down. This is spring loaded, so this goes back to my left as I'm sitting, and this is the lever we're going to use to press the pen together. So first thing we're going to do our tip. This slides back. The gold tip goes in the hole of the black part, and this comes forward. Now I'm going to press down just until I see that gap there where my finger is, just until I see that gap close. It's the gap between the tip of the wood and the gold piece on the tip of the pen. So a little bit of pressure, we'll take that down, and when that gap is closed, I ease it off. The tip is now been pressed into the wooden part of my pen. Next section we're going to use from our little pen kit, we're going to take the fixture that goes in here, and we're going to put it on so that you'll see there's 2 sections here. This shorter end, we've got a short end, then a line, then a long end. We put the short end in first. And we're going to press this up now so it goes just to that line. Okay, there are in fact 2 lines. It's the rightmost line from where I'm sitting, the line on the right side. So this time we're going to go, this is the section that's going to help our pen twist open and twist out. So that means we want these all down apart from twist. This one is clearly labeled twist. You leave that up, the others go down. Black section slides in, tip goes in there, this gets lined up. And as we press, I'm giving it just enough pressure until it gets to the rightmost line. Not the first line it's going to hit, the second line it's going to hit. So a little bit of pressure goes on, it's moving in, a little bit more, a little bit more. We're not quite there yet, but I've ran out of leverage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open one more of my spaces. So I've got twist plus one. Slide the black section back, insert my pen again, and this gives me a little more leverage. Little bit more, and we're there. Just until that line has disappeared, it's now gone level with the wood. Don't go any further than that. Next piece I'm going to use from our pen kit, I'm going to put our little gold spacer on there. This adds a nice decorative part to the pen. I'm then going to put in the writing chamber, the ink chamber if you like, goes into my pen, and I give it a few turns on the end, like so. So that's tightened in. And finally, I've got the other end of my pen, the top end of my pen. I can push that to a certain extent, and I might manage to close up that gap by hand, which I have. If not, you can put it back in, take all of those down now, and apply just a little bit of pressure to push it home. Last thing, I've got my pocket clip and my end cap. So the end cap goes on first, but I'm not pushing that all the way home. I'm just leaving that located. Just check that's in the right position. And then it goes cap. Cap is actually not going to give me enough leverage. I'm going to go for the full length. Sorry, my mistake. Everything down for this, because I've assembled the whole pen now. Everything down. Black part opened, like so. And I'm just going to push that end cap in. But if you notice on the end cap, there's a little groove around the top, and that's going to locate with our pocket clip. I've got to leave that groove exposed. If that groove disappears into the wood, there is nothing for my pocket clip to clip onto. So as I'm looking, I'm going a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and I stop. So that the end groove, if you like, is exposed, and my end cap is sitting slightly up off the wood. That's a good thing, because now my pocket clip comes along, line up the fixture in the side, and if I apply a little bit of pressure, it just pushes home like so. Our pen is complete. I go one way, twist, exposes the nib, the other way, twist, the nib is concealed. Testing with my pen. There it is. So we have completed our StuDIYo wooden turned pen project. Enjoyed our most recent StuDIYo video project, which we brought to you from our centre here, Times Square, Shakeside Road. We're located on the first floor. You're very welcome. We are now open. Come along and do your projects with us, or take advantage of our home hire service, where you can have all of this at the convenience of your own, the comfort of your own home, and follow our videos step by step. You'll find all the descriptions on this below, and we hope to see you soon.